Alright, welcome to lesson number 2. So we are going to start working on the desert monster, which will be a great introduction to Niagara fluids. So with my blank scene loaded, I will go to File, Save Current Level As, Witcher Course Levels, and call it level 02 underscore desert monster. And I will go to Mixamo. And for the character, I actually just want to use this plain mannequin. That's because we will be emitting smoke out of the character, so I don't want any complicated shapes. And for the animations, you can search for Getting Up, which is this animation right here. And to make it seem large scale, we're just gonna set the overdrive all the way down to 0, so it'll be much slower. And this will make him look huge. So with those settings set, you can go to Download and Download. So now you can go to your meshes folder, right click and make a new folder, call it Getting Up. So you can navigate to where you downloaded the animation and just drag the gettingup.fbx into Unreal Engine. You can leave all of these import settings at default and import. And what we want to use is the animation sequence. So I'll grab it and drag it into the scene. And I want the location to be reset to be at 0. So you can just drag the details panel to the side here so that we can easily see and access all the details and reset the location. Now to get the animation to play, we need a sequencer. So I'll go up here and say Add Level Sequence, go to Witcher Course, Sequences, and call it SQ underscore Desert Monster Save. And now we can just drag our animation into the sequencer, click on the plus sign here and select the Getting Up animation. And now if I hit play, the animation will start playing. And so I want this monster to be huge, so I'll set the scale to 10. To get a better idea of how big or small it really is, I'm gonna add that character in the foreground. So I'll grab this character, she's called Eve, and the animation is the standing idle. So she's kind of just breathing in place, kind of getting ready to fight. Animation sequence and put her right in front of the monster. You can turn on the rotation snapping up here and then rotate her 180 degrees. It's gonna put our camera in place. So I want her to be in the foreground, kind of looking at the monster like this, and drop her into the sequencer, animation, standing idle. We need to extend our timeline to about 500 frames so we can see the whole animation of the monster, extend the idle one, maybe frame it so that she's kind of on the left side, and then go to perspective, create camera, cine camera actor, and drop the camera into the sequencer. With this button being enabled, it means I'm piloting the camera right now. Click it to get out of the camera, and now I'm back in my perspective view. But I can always just go back into the camera and check what it looks like. So with all of this prepared, just go to File, Save All, and now we can start working on Niagara fluids and emit some smoke out of this character. So I'll go to our VFX folder, right click, Niagara System, create an empty system, and call it NS underscore Desert Monster, keeping everything under the same name. You can drop it into the scene and reset the location to 0. And then you can either double click or just do Control E to open it up. So to generate a smoke simulation, we need to create the grid 3D gas emitter. So I will right click, add emitter, or you can just hit E. And I want to search for grid. And you want this one right here, the Grid 3D Gas Master Emitter. It may take 30 seconds to load up and update, so be patient. You should get this basic simulation being emitted out of a sphere, and it should look like this in your scene. So there are a lot of modules in this emitter, but don't be intimidated by that. We don't ever need to touch any of these because Epic Games has provided us with this emitter summary, which houses some of the most essential settings that you will ever need to make your fire and smoke simulations. And even out of all of these settings, we only need a few to do what we need to do. So nothing to worry about. We're gonna go over these The main thing to understand is that the simulation takes place inside of the simulation grid, which you can see by these red bounds. So that's what draw bounds means. If you uncheck it, it will hide the simulation grid. The size of the grid is controlled with the world size. So if I set this to 800 on the X, we're going to get a much wider box. The pivot controls where is the simulation origin inside of the box. So if I set the Z to 0, then the sphere moves higher up. If I set it to 0.35, then it's lower inside of the simulation area. We're gonna go over these settings as we set up the effects. For now, all I want you to be aware of is that under source, under sphere source, this actually is enabled so that the smoke is being emitted out of the default sphere. But we want to emit smoke out of our own particles. So I will actually uncheck this. So now we have nothing, and it's basically asking us for an emitter source. So we need to create some particles to feed into this. So I will right click and make a new minimal emitter. Let's F2 and rename it as monster underscore particles. Now in order for this to work properly with the grid 3D gas emitter, the simulation needs to be a GPU sim. So under properties, sim target, you want to change it from CPU to GPU. And it's going to give you a warning because it wants to have fixed bounds. So the bounds here should be set to fixed. Under emitter update, we will once again create a spawn rate. And we're going to need a lot of particles to cover the entire monster. So I'll set the spawn rate to 5000. Under initialize particle sprite size mode, let's do uniform. And set it to 100 actually, because the monster is huge. So I want to be able to see the particles. And now we need to tell these particles to be born on the body of the monster. So I'll select the monster, go to Control B. And here we have the skeletal mesh. That's what you need to have selected. So with the skeletal mesh selected, let's go to particle spawn, plus sign, and search for reproduction. And you want the initialize mesh reproduction sprite. And then you need to click on this arrow to assign the skeletal mesh for the preview mesh and again for the default mesh. And it should update. And now you can see the particles are being born on top of the character. The character is at scale 1 inside of Niagara. It's not going to show the scaled up version. It may give you the CPU access error, so just say fix now and it's going to disappear. But like we learned, particle spawn only controls what the particles do at the beginning of their lifetime, but we need these particles to stay stuck to the character over time. So under particle update, I will once again search for repro, and I want the update mesh reproduction sprite. This is gonna tell Niagara that we want the particles to remain stuck to the character over time. So once again, I will just click on the arrow here to assign the skeletal mesh. And now back in our viewport, we need to simply grab the Niagara system and drag it on top of the getting up animation, and then select none, and this will link it to the character. And now if you hit play, it's a bit hard to see the particles, but the particles are actually spread across the body of the character. Let's make them even bigger so we can see it easier. So initialize particle color mode, direct set. Let's give them like a bright yellow color so we can see them. And the particles are still not getting bigger, and that's because the update reproduction sprite actually overwrites the size. So here you have sprite size. We can set that to 10 by 10. And now finally they will get bigger in the viewport like this. So now if we play the animation and look at it from our camera, we are looking at this. And so this is a great start. And in the next video, we are going to emit smoke out of these yellow particles and finish it up.